Professor R. Ashokamani, Director, Research and Development, Dhanalakshmi College of Engineering, Tambaram, Chennai. He is former professor and head of the department, Physics, Anna University, Chennai. He is presently guiding 3 research scholars. He has more than 44 years of UG and PG teaching experience and 33 years of research experience. 14 research scholars have obtained doctorate under his guidance in the area of material science and solid-state physics. He has more than 150 research publications to his credit, of which 90 are in international journals. He has authored a book on solid-state physics, which is an international publication. He has participated in several international conferences, both in India as well as in foreign countries such as USA, UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Yugoslavia. He has been a guest scientist at ICTP, Italy, several times. He is a fellow and treasurer of Tamil Nadu Academy of Sciences.
Welcome to the UGC lecture series. We are dealing with the chapter on optics, which comes under paper 14, and the syllabus which has been covered so far is the Fermat's principle, the optical path and other things. And in today's contents are as follows for the lecture 3: principal foci, magnification, Smith-Helmholtz equation and Lagrange law. Optics in general is important because of several factors. As I told you in the last lectures, the optical instruments which are being used will depend upon the optics, and I am talking about magnification, and I have the eye lens, for which you should also I should be knowing its magnifying power and so on. So, I need not emphasize or overemphasize on the importance of optics. In the last lecture, we saw the refraction of light at a spherical surface. It may be a lens. We have a relation like mu 2 by V minus mu 1 by U to be equal to mu 2 minus mu 1 by R. This is called the Gaussian relation. Now, this relation I am showing to you once again because of the fact that the principal foci F1 and F2, which are for which the expressions are to be arrived at, will depend on this relation. So, the refractive index of the second medium by the image distance V, and this is the first medium, the object distance U, and mu 2 minus mu 1 comes in the numerator, or is the radius of curvature. This is U, this is V, the image distance, this is object distance, and this is the radius of curvature. This is the important relation that connects the refractive indices of the two media and the U, V and R. Okay. Now, let us pass on to principal foci. Incidentally, this is called if you have got only one media, that means of importance of or significance, that is, you have got light going from air to glass, one of them will become 1, that is the refractive index of the one of the media will become unity. Therefore, the above relation will reduce to this relation. I will be coming back to the equation 3 once again. So, the first principal focus is the one that we obtained. You have here the two things using equation 3, that is what I told you. One can determine the first and second principal foci. F1 is the position of the object for which the image lies at infinity. This is the object here, the image will lie at infinity, right. The image will be, the rays of light are going parallel to the optic axis, the image will lie at infinity. F2 is the position of the image for which the object lies at infinity. The object is here, the rays of light are coming from the object, which is at infinite distance. So, these are the the two important foci, and so if the object is placed at F1 such that the refracted rays become parallel to the principal axis, v is equal to infinity. What is v? V is the image distance. Where is the image? The image is obtained at infinity, because the rays are parallel. So, the object is placed at f1, the rays of light which are passing through the medium, they become parallel to the principal axis. So, that the image distance v becomes equal to infinity. Therefore, by substituting the fact that v is equal to infinity in this relation, right. So, the infinity means mu 2 by infinity, that will become 0. So, mu 1 alone will be there. So, you will have mu 2 by infinity minus mu 1 by f 1 will be equal to mu 2 minus mu 1 by r. So, that gets reduced to, you will have f 1 here, the focal length f 1 will be equal to mu 1 times r by mu 2 minus mu 1. Is that right? This is the so called the expression for the first principal focal length. So, f 1 is called the first principal focus. The position of the axial point object whose image is formed at infinity is known as the first principal focus. So, mu 2 by infinity, mu 2 divided by infinity minus mu 1 by f 1 will be equal to. So, we obtain the relation f 1. Now, we will go to the second principal focus. In this case, the position of the axial point object whose image is formed at infinity is known as the second principal focus. Where is the image formed? The image is formed at infinity. Okay. If the object is at infinity, u is equal to infinity, right. The object is at infinite distance. The rays of light are coming from an object which is kept at infinite distance. So, that u becomes equal to infinity. So, 1 by u will obviously become equal to 0. So, again go to the same relation 3, which connected mu 2, mu 1, u v, etcetera. This is the relation we had. So, mu 2, mu 1 and all these things. Now, substitute this particular condition, namely for the second principal focus, u becomes equal to infinity, 1 by u will become equal to 0. Therefore, the relation gets changed as the generalized relation becomes mu 2 by f 2, that will be equal to mu 2 minus mu 1 by capital R. And now, f 2 will be equal to mu 2 into r, that divided by mu 2 minus mu 1. So, the f 2 will become. So, the value of v equal to f 2 is termed as the second principal focal length. So, this f 2 is known as the distance between the center and f 2, that is called the second principal focal length distance. This value is called the second principal focal length, and the position of the image corresponding to the object at infinity is called the second principal focus of the reflecting surface. It is easy to see that the first focal length f 1 for the spherical refracting surface is not equal to the second focal length f 2. Then obviously, you can see the relations for f 1 and f 2. These f 1 and f 2 will not be equal to. F 2 is mu 2 by r by mu 2 minus mu 1. Mu 2 is coming here, whereas f 1 is mu 1 is coming here in the numerator. So, it may be for r means mu 1 will be equal to unity and so on, whatever be the thing, f 1 in general, f 1 will not be equal to f 2. I told you about magnification, the magnification of a telescope or a microscope and so many other things. So, we have to have a better understanding of how the rays of light give rise to the kind of image, is a real image or virtual image, a magnified image or a diminished image. Depending upon all these things, the nature of the image will depend upon all these things. Therefore, one has to know what is meant by magnification. You all know what is, you say it is, the thing is magnified, that means amplified. So, magnification in general in the case of lenses will be, they are used to form a magnified image of an object. Magnification is defined as the size of the image by size of the object. The ratio between the size of the image and the size of the object gives you what is called magnification. You write magnification m is equal to this kind of thing, expression, right. There are three types of magnification. One is the lateral magnification, the longitudinal magnification and the angular magnification. Now, we have lateral or transverse magnification of a lens is defined as the ratio of the length of the image to the length of the object size. Both the lengths are measured perpendicular to the principal axis. Then you talk of sign convention. According to sign convention, distances above the principal axis, the principal axis, as I will show you now, the distances measured above that will be taken as positive. Supposing the principal axis image is formed, the object is here, then the heights or the distances perpendicular to the optic axis, right. That will be the things which are lying above that will be positive, below the H2 will be negative, right. H2 will be negative. If C is the center of curvature, H2 will be negative, and similarly H1 will be positive if P is the center of the lens, then H1 will be termed as positive, H2 because the image is coming below the point P, then the optic axis, that will be taken as negative. That is what I am trying to explain to you now. So, H1 will be taken as positive if so the sign convention is distances above the principal axis of the lens are taken as positive and those below the axis are taken as negative. Okay. So, that is obvious. Then hence lateral magnification is positive for an erect image and negative for an inverted image, erect image and the inverted image. Okay. This is positive, this is negative. If the refractive indices on either sides of the lens are the same, then H1 by U will be equal to H2 by V, or magnification will be V by U, simply magnification will be V by U. That will also be same as H2 by H1. The lateral magnification corresponding to Newton's formula is m is equal to H2 by H1, that is equal to F1 by X1, that is equal to X2 by F2. So, the magnification according to Newton's formula will be H2 by H1, the height of the image by height of the object, that will be equal to F1 by X1, that is equal to X2 by F2. Okay. This is what I wanted to tell you about magnification. Now, we will pass on to the case of lateral or transverse magnification suffered by or obtained in the case of a light ray passing through a lens. I will show you the case of surface from where you have a second medium. This is a lens, right. You got a second medium, and we will try to obtain the expression for its focal length. Let us have a break at this point. Welcome back at the break, and we just now started discussing about lateral or transverse magnification when a light ray is going from an object and an image is produced here. When light ray is passing through the object through what? Through a spherically refracting surface, you can assume this to be a part of a spherical lens, is a spherical lens, and the image is obtained here and the object is here. What is the height of the object? Height of the object is H1, height of the image is H2, and the light ray is emanating or starting from the point B, incident at a point Q, and the refracted ray follows this route. It passes through the second principal focus F2 and goes to the point B prime, as is discussed below. So, another ray passes BC, this ray, right, BC going here and going to the point B prime. It produces the image, the bottom image B prime, the light ray B goes through the center of curvature and you have the B prime. On the other hand, this light ray, as I told you, from B it goes in this direction parallel to the optic axis, passes through F2, that also comes to B prime. So, the two light rays intersect at a point B prime, which is the image of B. You got the image of B. B is here, the image of B is obtained as B prime. Okay. Therefore, AB prime is a linear image for the linear object AB. You got the object AB and you got the linear image A prime B prime, and H1 is the height of the object, and H1 is the height of the object, H2 is the height of the image. Okay. And that is what you have here. Linear magnification m, as I told you, it is nothing but the ratio of the two heights. Which one comes in the numerator? Height of the image will come in the numerator, height of the object will be coming in the denominator. The image, to what extent the image has been magnified by the lens. Linear magnification m will be A prime B prime by AB. You have got A prime B prime earlier, right? The height of the image A prime B prime, this is the height of the object. Now, according to this diagram, it looks it is not magnified, negative magnification, actually a reduction in the height of the image. The triangles, how will you obtain for the expression for A prime, B prime and AB? They are the things which are to be done now. The triangles ABC and A prime, B prime, C prime are similar. You look at the triangles ABC, okay, yeah, ABC and AB prime C, and ABC you find here this triangle. See, this is the other triangle, right? A prime B prime C is another triangle, and ABC is one of the triangles. And so, let us from these two triangles you can write down A prime by AB is equal to CA prime by CA. Where are the, you have to look at the diagram again. So, A prime by B prime will be the corresponding CA and CA prime are here. So, CA prime by CA, that will be equal to, using the sign convention, minus H2 by H1, that will be equal to PA prime minus PC by PA minus PC, and we will see what are PA and PC, PA prime and PC. So, PA and PC are the, you have PA is the object distance, PC is the, PC is what? PC is the radius of curvature, because C is the center of curvature, PC is the radius of curvature, and so you have to look into PA, PA prime is V, right? The PA is U, object distance, PA prime is the image distance, object is V, and PC will be equal to R. Okay. So, you have to look into these distances, then using the sign conventions you can write, you have got plus V here minus the PC is R, as I told you, it is the radius of curvature R, here you got minus U, the object distance, then again plus R here. So, that becomes V minus R by minus U plus R. Therefore, your H2 by H1, taking the negative sign here, now H2 by H1 will become equal to V minus R by U plus R. That is the thing that you are getting now. That again can be written as you know, mu 2 by V by minus mu 2 by U. What do you get mu 2 by U? You have to look at the relation that I showed earlier, the equation number 3. From the equation number 3 you get mu 2 by V minus mu 2 by U to be equal to mu 2 minus mu 1 by R. You remember it is mu 2 by U, and that will be equal to, also equal to mu 2 by R minus mu 1 by R. This mu 2 by V minus mu 2 by R will be now equal to mu 1 by U by minus mu 1 by R. So, you can take this mu 1 as a common term here outside, and similarly mu 2 can be pulled outside. So, if mu 2 is taken here, that will be mu 2 multiplied by R minus V by V R, that will be equal to mu 1 multiplied by R minus U by U R. That right is a simple algebra. then you take again mu 2 into V minus r by V will be equal to mu 1 multiplied by mu minus r by u. In both sides you have added a negative sign multiplied by minus 1. So, you have the finally V minus r, you have got V minus r by u minus r, you are taking mu u minus r to the denominator of the left hand side. So, V minus r by u minus r will be mu 1 divided by mu 2 multiplied by V by u. Hence, magnification m will be equal to h 2 by h 1 multiplied by V minus r by u minus r. Hence, magnification finally turns out to be mu 1 divided by mu 2 multiplied by V by u. From the above equation it follows that when u is positive, the image is real and inverted. On the other hand, when u is negative, the image is virtual and erect. So, let me once again tell you the expression for magnification will be the ratio of the refractive indices of the two media, namely mu 1 and mu 2, the air and glass. Mu 1 is the refractive of the air, mu 2 is that of the glass, V is the image distance, u is the object distance. Okay. So, this is the final relation for the magnification of a light ray when it is made to pass through a refracting surface, and the refractive index of the refracting surface is having value mu 2, and okay, that is a expression for the magnification, for a transverse magnification, because you have got longitudinal magnification as well as angular magnification. Now, this is the one that you get for the transverse magnification in the case of a lens. Now, we will pass on to Smith-Helmholtz equation as well as the Lagrange law. Now, again consider a spherically refracting surface which separates air and a medium. On the left hand side you have got air of refractive index mu 1. From the refracting surface onwards, you can assume this is the second medium having a refractive index mu 2, and now a light ray comes from the point B, it passes through the center of curvature and the image is obtained at B prime. Now, the light ray at the point A, it has to be incident here, make an angle I, the angle of incidence is theta 2, it makes an angle of incidence theta 1 with respect to the surface, and the light ray undergoes a refraction and meets the point C, whereas this light ray coming from B goes through the center of curvature. This light ray comes and it gets refracted and comes to the point A prime, and the image A prime B prime is formed, and F 2 is the second principal focus, and this angle is theta 2, this angle is theta 1, and this is the object distance u, and this is the image distance v, and so on. Okay. Now, these things are well known to you by now. So, let me, for the sake of completeness, let me again tell you A B is the object, A prime B prime is a real inverted image, theta 1 is the angle made by the incident ray, is the angle made by incident ray on the spherical surface, theta 2 the angle made by A prime, you got A prime here, right, with the optic axis. C is the center of curvature you got here. The incident and refracted rays are considered to be paraxial rays. What are paraxial rays? The light rays which make a smaller angle of inclination with respect to the surfaces on which they are incident. That means, the rays should be almost parallel to the optic axis. Suppose this is the optic axis, the light rays are almost parallel, that means, angles which are made theta 1 theta 2 will be smaller. As we did in the last lecture, if the angles are smaller, your sin theta 1 can be taken as equal to theta 1 itself. Similarly, tan theta 1 will be reduced to theta 1, both sin theta 1 and tan theta 1 will be become equal to theta 1. Similarly, sin theta 2, tan theta 2, they will be equal to theta 2. If this condition will be valid only when the angles theta 1, theta 2 are small. That is the one that you have when you have got paraxial rays, that is the light rays which are incident on the surface should not be making a very large angle. They are called a marginal light rays. They should not be hitting at the top. It should be more or less parallel, but this is a the image is magnified. So, angular magnification alpha is defined as tan theta 2 by tan theta 1. You have to take the tangent of theta 2 and theta 1. So, that gives the angular magnification. Look at tan theta 2. What is tan theta 2? Tan theta 2 is this one, right. So, this divided by this, right. Again a spherical surface refracting two, you got a spherically refracting surface separating the two media of refractive n1 n2, and this is what I showed you just now. And tan theta 2 by tan theta 1, you look at the picture here for the sake of convenience. The picture is again shown once again, so that you can look for yourself. This is a theta 2. Tan theta 2 will be q p by u. You have got q here, q p. If you can have q p, actually q p will not be a straight line, but q p by v. When will you have q p? The radial curvature is very large. Supposing the spherical surface becomes a plane surface, then q and p will lie at the same plane. Let me now summarize what I have told you so far in this lecture. We have derived the expressions for the two principal foci. Then the magnification of a lens has been discussed. The formula for the transverse magnification in the case of a convex lens is obtained. The Smith-Helmholtz equation was discussed, a part of it was discussed, and the rest of it we will see in the next lecture. Let me now pass on to the following questions. Question number 1, what are the first and second principal foci? What is meant by magnification? With this we come to the end of the lecture number 3. The rest of the things we will see in the lectures to come. Thank you.